Before he could finish the book, he was probably killed by someone from the neighboring country to stop him from publishing magic. If magic was published, this magic kingdom would lose their superiority over the other country. That's when the relationship between the two countries worsens. You've got to understand this point. Otherwise, you won't understand who the enemy is. It's hard to know whose side Howl is on. Is he on Suleiman's side or the neighboring country's side? He's attacking almost everybody. That's because he hates the magic kingdom that killed his uncle, and he also hates Suleiman, who tries to control him. So everybody is the enemy. So first, you must know that Howl's uncle died before he could finish writing his magic scroll. Otherwise, you'd be lost. So Howl doesn't like the magic kingdom. The king of Howl's country, who never appears, saw the neighboring country as a threat and ordered Suleiman to establish the magic academy where Howl studies. Next, the night when the stars fall. The night he makes a contract with the falling star. It's important to remember that Sophie named the star Calcifer. So, when the star falls and they make an agreement to share their hearts, Sophie says, "Howl, Calcifer," so that the two can hear. She says, "I'm Sophie. I'll see you in the future." Calcifer has already made a contract, so Calcifer hears this too. So there's a cut where Calcifer and Howl look at Sophie. So at that point, Sophie is also included in that contract. That's why he was named Calcifer. And it's depicted quite carefully. You wouldn't understand this if you don't look at it in order. Then, Howl runs away from Suleiman. Suleiman is shocked. You'll see this later, but Howl leaves Suleiman because he has made a contract with Calcifer and gained power. That's how he escapes the academy. Of course, Suleiman tries to stop him, but there is a scene that explains why Suleiman is in the wheelchair later on. When you look at the feud between the two later on, you can see that Suleiman was extremely heartbroken. It's easier for you to understand the story when you look at it this way. This Madame Suleiman is also a complex character. When she says to Sophie, "Howl cannot stay that way. He's problematic," she hides her face with her stick as she talks. A villain must always hide her face. When Suleiman does evil things, she always uses her stick to block the sight of human beings. She might be using some magic to affect Sophie, but above all else, she just looks so cruel. Suleiman is in a wheelchair after the first combat with Howl. 50 years before, a female student ran away from Suleiman and became the Witch of the Waste. Suleiman creates page boys and turns a man into a dog. So the country begins to put more effort into science research on magic. Next, Howl seduces a witch. He seduces the Witch of the Waste just for fun and then runs away. He repeats this behavior with many girls. Suleiman attacks a prince and turns him into a scarecrow. I call this the Sarajevo incident because basically this story is about World War I. As the assassination of the Prince of Austria led to war, this war in the story is led by Suleiman herself. I guess the prince in the neighboring country was pretty strong. I guess this was one of her operations to neutralize magic by curse. World War I begins. Suleiman tries to take Howl's magic power away from him. When Howl fights, Miyazaki shows the military power of the two nations. You can actually see the soldiers trench fighting. So, you can see the nightmarish battle between the two countries that doesn't seem to end. Howl meets Sophie, guided by the ring. It's hard to recognize it, but this is where Howl and Sophie met for the first time. When Sophie is trying to get away from the soldier, Howl says, "Sorry, have you been waiting long?" And you can see the ring flashing red when he wraps his hand around her shoulder. His ring flashes red or blue only when they are calling to each other. So, this is her destiny. Long, long ago, he met a girl who said, "I'm Sophie, and I'll come and see you again." But he doesn't realize that he finally meets her. He's just picking up a girl, as usual. But the ring knows Miyazaki is trying to alert the viewers. So, Howl isn't aware of his own destiny. This is Miyazaki's way of depicting romance, and it's puzzling. A comment just said that it's hard to tell. As you can see in the storyboard, it only says the ring flashes red. I was about to overlook this, but I thought something was wrong. I eventually found out about this rule that the ring only flashes when they are calling to each other. Now, finally we have reached the main story. After the whole story of Howl's moving castle is over, the prince goes back to his own country and Suleiman agrees to surrender. Suleiman says with some dignity, "Oh, what can you do? I'll end this stupid war." She looks calm on the surface, but she's the female version of Muska. Although she looks like a plain old lady, she's Muska inside. So, it's the instrument of surrender. Her country is totally burned. In the opening scene, the people are cheering the warship, saying, "Go and win!" But only one warship returns, and it's about to sink. It's just like Japan at the very end of World War II, the summer of 1945. That's why she signed the instrument of surrender. The nation is bankrupt because of the massive reparations. Howl went up in the sky because he could no longer do business in his country. It's just like Germany post-World War I. And after a few decades, Suleiman starts another war, World War II. The last scene where after she says, "What can you do? I'll end this war." You see the airplanes, and you also see Howl's castle in the air. You may think that the plane is coming home from the war, but when you look down, it's all green below. It can't be green because the whole country was burnt. It's impossible to have farms there. So that means this scene is 10 or 20 years later. Just like Germany, the country that was severely defeated in World War I, bounces back and invades the surrounding countries.